Are you someone who finds SQL complicated? Think again, because by the end of this series, you will be using SQL like a pro. So welcome to StarAgile's exclusive learning series. So I'm Himwant, your trainer for this journey. In this series, we'll break down the SQL step by step, making it easy for the beginners and exciting for the people who are trying to upskill or brush up their knowledge in SQL. So with hands-on demos and practical examples, you'll transform from a beginner to an SQL expert in no time. Before we get started, make sure you subscribe to the channel and hit that notification bell so that you don't miss any of the upcoming episodes. So this is just beginning, guys. So let's dive into the chapter 1, which is Introduction to SQL. So today we are going to have an introduction to what is meant by SQL, or what is the difference between SQL and MySQL. So all the introduction related to SQL will have. So like, let's say what is meant by a database. Okay, so many people might have so many doubts related to this. Okay, but guess what? I'm going to make it easy for you people by having a clear explanation or clear introduction about what is meant by SQL or where it is used. Okay, so in this, initially, first we'll talk about what is meant by a database. Okay, data base. Okay, so database is nothing but a collection of related data. Okay, so related data. So when I say a related data over there, the data which is similar to each other, we'll call it as a related data. Okay, let's say for example, in a company wants to store the details of the employees. Okay, means the first and last name, or when they are hired into the company, or what is the salary which is provided to the employee, like all the details related to the employees, they might store in one particular database, and there might be another database where they might store the details related to the financial. Okay, let's say all the financially related data about the company, they might store in another database. So generally speaking, in a large level, we can say a database means a collection of related data. Okay, so this is what we'll call it as a database over here. And when I say we are storing the data over there, obviously we'll store it in some of the other locations. So, okay, so in a simple terminology, we'll take an example of storing the details in our laptop itself. Okay, let's say I myself want to store my details. So what is my name, or what is my age, where I'm working. Okay, so all the details, all the information about myself, I want to store it in my laptop. Okay, so when I want to store it in my laptop, so generally where we can store it, obviously we'll have something called as hard disk in our laptops, right? So hard disk, right? So as an end user, okay, as a user over here, if I want to store my details in my laptop, so I'll store it in my hard disk. But as an end user over here, in what language or how I'll write my commands over there, so generally I'll open something like Word or Notepad, and I'll write, so my name is so and so, and my age is, and I'm working in so and so location on so and so company. So likewise, I'll write all the commands or everything in a language what I can understand. Means basically in English I'll write it, but in which language or in which format the data will be stored in the hard disk, so it will be stored in a binary format. So it's a simple basic computer knowledge. What you can understand is data will be stored in the binary format, in the sense in zeros and ones the data will be stored. Okay, so but as an end user, we don't directly interact with the hard disk, right? So if I want to store something in my laptop, I'll not directly go and interact with the hard disk. So a hard disk in the sense RAM. Okay, so I'll have something in between, which we'll call it as an operating system, right? So operating system in the sense, what kind of operating systems we know, like Windows or Mac iOS or Ubuntu or Linux, these are all called as the operating systems, right? So now as an end user, if I want to store my details into the hard disk, I'll have something in between as a mediator, which we'll call it as operating system over there, from where every other information, okay, whatever I want to do, every other command or instruction will pass through the operating system itself. Okay, and basically we can say this operating system as the heart. Why? Because not only just the insertion of the data or checking with the data, so there will be lot of background work which has been taken care by the operating systems. So that is why basically in a laptop or in a computer, we'll call the operating system as the heart of the CPU. Okay, so now as an end user, I'll pass my information through the operating system and I'll store it into the hard disk, right? So now it's fine. Now we are storing it in the hard disk. From the operating system, we are passing those information. So now as an end user also, again now here, will not directly interact with the operating system, right? So if I want to store some details of myself into the laptop, I'll not go and ask the Windows or the operating system. So I'll open something, a particular app where I can enter my details. So which are like Windows or else a notepad, okay, or else any other app or any other particular software in which I can type my information. I'll open that particular software and I'll enter my information over there. So I cannot open calculator and I cannot enter my details, right? So I'll open something called as Word or Notepad and I'll enter my details over here, right? So the same way here, what I'll do, I'll open a particular software. So basically this Windows, what are they? They are a client softwares, right? So I'll open a client software and I'll write my details and I'll pass it through the operating system, and from the operating system those details will get inserted or stored into the hard disk. So this is the flow what it goes as an end user if I want to store my details into my hard disk. So this is all back end work. Okay, we don't directly check with that, or it will not show in the front end for us. So this is all what happens in the back end, or this is all the actual flow what it is going on as an end user to store the details into my hard disk, right? So in this terminology, okay, so I hope everyone is clear about this. So a simple example I have given, let's say I want to store my details into my hard disk. So this is the process what it is going on. Okay, now coming to the data, which is very huge. Okay, so hardly my information or else 100 records or 200 records if I want to insert, I can simply go and insert into my hard disk. But let's say when I'm dealing with very huge or very vast data. Okay, so a simple example is the details what I want to deal with is customers. Okay, let's say in an e-commerce, or else let's say for example in Amazon, per day how many people are shopping, okay, and in a particular country or worldwide how many people are shopping and what they are shopping over there, how many products are being ordered in Amazon for a single day. So if you talk about this data over there, it will be not just in lakhs, it will be in millions. Okay, or else if you take any offline stores, okay, let's say in India you have this marts, okay, super stores, okay, so where let's say like for example like DMart itself, if you see, so there are so many people who will be purchasing different kind of products in DMart, and not just only one or two people, so there will be thousands of people, and those thousands will again purchase multiple products. So here if you see, there will be a very vast data what I am talking about. So this data I cannot store it in my hard disk. So hardly how much storage we'll have in our hard disk, hardly 256 GB or 512 GB or 1 TB or at max of 2 TB will have. But when I talk about a very vast, a huge data, a millions of records are getting inserted within a single day, means I need to store a millions of records in a single day. So like that, if I talk about the data in a month, or else about a 1 year data if I want to store, then what I need a very vast storage capacitors. Okay, so this is the data what I am saying about. So now this particular data, okay, so this very huge data, obviously that is also I'll store in some of the other location where basically we'll call them as storage capacitors. Okay, So now in our laptop we'll call it as hard disk. Okay, externally also we'll have certain locations where we'll store the data. So now a storage capacity. Okay, so where the data is getting stored. Okay, so once the data is getting stored over there, now the task is, as an end user, I want to interact with the data. Means I want to find out last year what are the sales made in Amazon. Okay, so let's say I'm working in Amazon or else any e-commerce web company I'm working, and they are asking me to give me what are the sales made in the last year, and that too specifically monthly what are the sales. So Jan to December, what are the sales made? I need to give that report. Okay, I need to analyze, or I need to fetch the data, and I need to analyze that particular data over here. So as an end user over here, if I want to interact with the storage capacity over here, okay, so for that I cannot directly go and ask the storage capacity to give the data. Okay, so here also same like in our laptop we have an operating system. The same way, to interact with the storage capacity we need to have something in between, which we'll call it as DBMS. Okay, so what is meant by DBMS? Data base management system. Okay, so by the name itself, by the terminology of the name itself, we can understand what is this. It is a particular software similar to the operating system which is used to manage the data. So database management system. So we need to have this database management system to interact with those very huge storage capacitors over here. And what and all the instructions I want to give, I need to pass it through DBMS itself. As for the laptops, how the Windows or operating systems are the heart, the same way for this particular process of interacting with the huge data in a storage capacity, DBMS is the core part. Means we can say DBMS is the heart. So what and all the instructions you want to give, you need to pass it through database management system itself. Okay, so now combining of these two, we'll call it as DBMS server. Okay, so server means basically what? So that is the place where we'll be interacting with the data. Okay, so now as an end user here, now if I want to interact with this DBMS, okay, like in your laptop, if you want to interact with operating system, you'll open some or the other app. So if you want to do some calculations, you'll open calculator. If you want to give some presentations, you'll open a PPT, okay, Microsoft PowerPoint. If you want to create a document over there, you'll open Microsoft Word. So like that, some of the other app you'll open, right? The same way here, to interact with the database management system also, you need to have a client software, which we'll call it as a client software over here. Okay, so from this client software, I need to pass my information to database management system over here. Means let's say basically as I have given example 5 minutes earlier. So like the company is asking me to check with the data. Okay, so last 1 year what are the sales made, and monthly what are the sales, and what is the trend it is going on. Basically they want me to check with the data, that to 1 year data they want to see. Okay, so this particular data what I want, okay, and monthly do I want this data, or from which particular day to which particular day I want this data. So all this particular commands I need to write, means I need to give certain instructions to the database management system to fetch the data from the storage capacity. Okay, and here the commands or the instructions, how I need to give this instructions to the database management system is, I need to pass this information in a language what the database management system can understand. So this is the point where SQL comes into the picture. Okay, so what is meant by SQL means structured query language. So structured query language. So like how you have different languages like C, C++, Java, or different languages. The same way you have a particular language which we'll call it as a structured query language. Okay, so this is the language in which we need to write the commands so that the database management system can understand. So if you ask me, so why we need to write it in SQL itself means, if you don't write the commands in the structured query language, database management system cannot understand. Okay, so generally, if I want to speak with you, or if we want to communicate, we need to speak in a language which we both will be similar with. Okay, so if I'm talking in English over here, you can understand it, so that we have a proper communication here. The same way, if you want to interact with the database management system also, you need to write the commands in structured query language. Why? Because DBMS can only understand if you write the commands in the structured query language over here. Okay, so this is where SQL is used. Okay, so for what? We need to write the commands in the structured, this is a language. Okay, so this is a language in which we need to write the commands, so why we need to write in this particular language itself? Then only the database management system can understand what you're trying to portray. Either you want to fetch the data, or you want to insert the data into the database. Okay, or if you want to update certain data in the database, whatever the commands you want to give, everything you need to pass it through the DBMS. And in which language you need to give those instructions? In structured query language. Okay, so now I hope everyone is clear why SQL is used. Okay, so this is a language in which we need to write the commands. Okay, now talking about the software. Okay, so here talking about this client softwares over here, as how you will open different softwares in your laptop to enter your details. So either I can open Microsoft Word, I can enter my details, or else I can also open Notepad and I can enter my details. Okay, the same way here, to write this commands also, we have different client softwares in the market, guys. Okay, and what are they are? Oracle, Access, Microsoft SQL, Teradata, PostgreSQL, and MySQL. Okay, so these are the different client softwares what we have, guys. Okay, so like let's say if I want to use any particular theme in my phone, or else in my laptop over there, how we have different softwares. The same way here, to write this structured query language commands also, we have different softwares which are like Oracle, and this Access and Microsoft SQL both belongs to the Microsoft itself. And we have another software called as Teradata, PostgreSQL, and also one more software which we'll call it as MySQL. Okay, so here this MySQL is also a software which is owned by Oracle itself, guys. Okay, so I hope everyone has heard a name is Oracle. Okay, so they have a software which is mostly used in the companies over there. Means Oracle is the software which is a server software over here. But here, for the learning purpose, okay, to learn this SQL over there, everyone cannot buy the softwares, right? So we need to have a software where you need to write or practice this structured query language commands. So keeping that in the mind, so Oracle has published another software which will call it as MySQL. So what is meant by MySQL means MySQL is a client software which is used to write the commands. And in which language you need to write the commands? You need to write the commands in the structured query language. Okay, so here understand the difference, guys. Okay, so if you get a question like what is the difference between SQL and MySQL? Okay, so SQL in the sense it's a language. Okay, it's a language in which you need to write the commands, and to write those commands where in which software you are writing it, you are using a software called as an MySQL. Okay, so this is the difference between the MySQL and the SQL. Okay, I hope everyone is clear about this. So understand the difference. So now we'll be using a software which is called as an MySQL. So why? Because this is a software which has been published by Oracle itself. Okay, and this is a completely free version, guys. And also why we are using MySQL over here is this is a software which is a completely free version too. So you don't need to pay anything. Okay, so directly you can go to the website and you can download this MySQL and you can practice your SQL commands within this MySQL software over here. Okay, so this is the software what we'll be using to practice the structured query language commands. And now here coming to the database management system. Okay, so here the database management system also, what kind of database management system we'll be using? So here the database management system what we'll be using is Relational Database Management System. That's wrap for this chapter, guys. So let's meet in next episode for this SQL series.